Okay. We're gonna tear a hole in the sky. Hey, what's going on, you guys? My name is the Raptor, and next time on Death Battle, we have Simone the Digger from Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann versus White Lantern Kyle Rayner from DC. That was a mouthful, but oh my god, I cannot believe that we're getting this episode so quickly. We knew that we were getting it because it was on the Kickstarter, but the fact that we're getting it so soon is honestly very surprising, but I'm not complaining at all. This was literally one of my most wanted death battles for quite a long time. And I know that applied to a lot of other people as well, so I think the matchup just really speaks for itself. But yeah, I love how absolutely crazy it is, how much is at play here. I don't like how people seem to be against DC all the time for every matchup, or at least how some people seem to be that way, but I'm sure I'll be able to enjoy the episode regardless. I just think it could be absolutely insane, and if it lives up to the hype that we have been, building up for it, then oh my god, that would be crazy. So let's start with everyone's favorite thing in the world, cosmologies. The cosmology found from Gurren Lagann, based on how big we see the mechs get and data books and such, is actually insanely impressive. Like, it honestly feels like it deserves to be in a conversation like this. It has an 11-dimensional infinite multiverse at least, along with the anti-spiral universe in between dimensions that is likely infinite dimensional, and Super Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann briefly destroyed all of existence when clashing with a mech just as powerful as it. And since then, by the end of the series, Simone has grown even more powerful than the anti-spiral himself, who dwarfs that previously established level of power. It is a little annoying because we don't have an explicit cap for Simone, we just know he has to be way stronger than something else, but no matter how you slice it, that is nothing to scoff at. However, White Lanterns can scale to beings such as the Guardians of the Universe, who could collectively destroy DC's multiverse if they wanted to, and can harm beings that exist outside of DC's conventional creation, or straight up pose a threat to it all. DC's creation is also infinite dimensional, but is made up of an infinite amount of multiverses, let alone what exists beyond. And if given the life equation, more on that much later, Kyle is amped to the point where he can break barriers as strong as the source wall, separating reality from the source housed in the void outside of comic panels. For Kyle or White Lanterns to be able to do or compare to stuff like that, Simone, to my knowledge, has never explicitly shown to wield that kind of power. And when it comes to speed, at best it's a tie for incalculable speed, especially with both of them being able to break or operate outside of space-time, but I wouldn't be surprised if DC's cosmology implies something even more impressive for Kyle. But like with Ghost Rider versus Spawn, whoever wins the cosmology argument is not the whole story here, because Simone's whole thing with his spiral energy is evolution and transcendence. If you didn't know, many of Simone or his mech's power increases throughout his journey happen because he wills it to happen. He can grow stronger than his opponent mid-fight just because he believes that he can do it. Even in an instance where it was objectively confirmed that he had a 0% chance of winning just based on the current situation, he changed the probability and then evolved to fit that probability and win. So even if you want to argue that the cosmological difference here means that Simone would have a 0% chance of winning, he could seemingly transcend the cosmological gap in power to change that. Now, this sounds like a pretty big problem, and it very well could be, because Kyle can't just beat anybody across DC Comics just because he wills it. There are some levels of power he could simply never reach. However, Lanterns are also capable of achieving things that are 0% possible just with their own power. Hal Jordan was able to overpower all of the willpower in existence with his own willpower, and Kyle did that same shit against 7 of those emotional entities all at once. So while we haven't seen one of these guys just will their way to the top of the food chain, they can certainly increase no-win probabilities to just win in certain situations. And Kyle still definitely starts off with a massive cosmology advantage at least. However, how much that helps him could determine on how you interpret how similar these probability increasing traits that they each have have really are to each other. And even still, I think the best way to judge this is by trying to find even the slightest differences in their abilities or defenses, or what they could definitively use successfully against each other. And these characters have a lot of hacks and resistances, so that's going to be really difficult. Naturally, a lot of their abilities overlap with each other, a lot of their standard stuff, like creation of whatever matter or ideas they want, manipulation of their own forms of energy, flight, teleportation, non-physical interaction, regeneration, and so many physical and temporal abilities and resistances, some mental resistances too, and so many more abilities that, while impressive, don't really affect things against each other too much in this case. However, I am surprising myself to say that based on my understanding of the characters, I think you could actually argue that Simone has more of his bases covered based on what's been outright shown. Some of you may be aware of Simone's omnipresent attack, which fires super missiles at you from every moment of your past, present, and future. Jesus Christ. In a similar fashion, Simone has also evolved to essentially being removed from cause and effect, or being acausal, and even though White Lanterns are absolutely busted, including when it comes to space-time, I'm not sure if they've ever been described like that. Simone can also absorb essentially any form of energy and convert it into spiral energy for his own use. Kyle can also absorb energy, but even when Simone is completely depowered, he can evolve past his opponent, so absorbing energy really doesn't do anything for Kyle. It doesn't depower Simone, and it doesn't make him more powerful than Simone if Simone gets to the point where he's more powerful than him, all that stuff, you know? And I'm pretty sure it still holds true that all lanterns will lose their power after 24 hours of constant use without recharging, even if it turns out that both of these characters can just resist everything that the other character can do, or if it's more likely that the fight would last that long than it is that one character would just kill the other. Now, in terms of Kyle's abilities compared to Simone's resistances and all of that, the one thing that I have found that Kyle has that might really be able to trip up Simone is his emotional manipulation, as he has complete control over the emotional spectrum. That's essentially what a White Lantern is, and if he messes severely with Simone's will, that could directly correlate to messing with his power and ability to evolve. But even still, I haven't found a lot of other things that are that concrete for what Kyle definitively has over Simone. So with how similar their general abilities are, and with the magnitudes that Simone can increase in power, I think Simone could present more direct problems for Kyle than the other way around. I think it's possible. However, now we have to finally address the elephant in the room, that being the life equation and whether or not Kyle will be given it for this battle. Now, personally, if it was up to me, I would probably say no, because I prefer to look at characters at their fullest potential in their most common states, or most accurate states, so to speak, as opposed to the strongest they've ever been in their whole life, regardless of context. And Simone willingly gave up most of the life equation to essentially avoid being corrupted by it. That being said, I am not fully confident that that is what Death Battle is going to do. They gave Thanos the Infinity Stones despite them not belonging to him, and despite him not having them for most of the time in comics, just because they're so associated with his character. And the same could be said for the life equation relating to the White Lanterns or Kyle himself, because he did hold on to it for quite a long time. More importantly, Death Battle has given characters things that they have willingly given up before multiple times, even as recently as Ghost Rider vs. Spawn. To treat this any differently would be a little inconsistent for them, in my opinion. Kyle currently has one piece of the life equation and the rest are stored with the other White Lanterns, so theoretically if he could call the rings back to him, he could rebuild the equation anyway, but that's frankly just a theory. But if he is given the life equation, whatever their justification for it is, then I'm sorry, but I don't think Simone has any chance. Like, it's a 0% chance that he cannot undo like he normally can. And that's because it's not just a matter anymore of Simone evolving past a certain level of power, it's about Kyle being able to warp reality on nearly the highest order in the DC cosmology. He could rewrite Simone's spiral energy or power increasing mechanics mechanics. Hell, he could rewrite the concept of evolution itself if he wanted to. That goes a step beyond just Simone being depowered or changing probability. He can't evolve past evolution not existing anymore from what we have seen. So the one thing that kind of sucks about this matchup to me is just the fact that the outcome could very well hinge on one outside decision, which, you know, usually I do not like at all, although this matchup is so cool and has so much else going on that it doesn't really bother me as much. What can I say? But you have no idea how much I'm dying to make this a conditional prediction and just say that if the life equation is included, then Kyle will win. If it's not included, then I could see it going either way, but I might go with Simone. It's really tough though. But I told myself I would not do conditional predictions anymore, so I'm just going to pick one character and hope that I'm right for whatever reasoning Death Battle uses. And not only, again, do I think is there a decent precedent for Death Battle giving Kyle the life equation, but I also think it is much more likely that Death Battle would say that Kyle would win without it than they would say Simone would win if Kyle has it, especially with Kyle's emotional manipulation and potential speed. So trying to hedge my bets in as many ways as possible, I think I'm predicting Kyle for winning. But if they do not give him the life equation, assuming he can't just call it back to him, then I will actually really respect that. And if Simone wins in that scenario, then I'll be super happy with that. We'll just have to wait and see what Death Battle does. But honestly, guys, I am tired and I have work in like a couple hours, but I'm still super happy to have made this video because it means that we are getting Simone versus Kyle after so much hype, after so much anticipation. I am so excited to see what they have done for this one. And I want to hear what you guys have to say. Are you excited for this episode? Who do you think is going to win? Let me know down in the comments below. Love to hear what you guys have to say. And if you enjoyed this video, give it a like, subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this. But no matter what, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Have a great day, and peace out.